Rome took over Gaul. It crushed Carthage. It brought Britain under its control. By the 1st century AD, the Roman eagles ruled just about everything. Almost everything. Because over in the east, there was one empire that never gave in. Not after one war, not after one loss, not even after 600 years of fighting. This wasn't some rebellion. This wasn't a short-term rival. This was something completely different. An empire that matched Rome in strength, in drive, and in its willingness to wait. And no matter how many times Rome marched east, it just couldn't bring that empire down. Before we jump into today's story, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Follow me as we uncover the hidden battles, secrets, and legends of history that textbooks never tell you. In 53 BC, Rome made a big mistake. Marcus Licinius Crassus, one of the most powerful men in the Republic, headed east with around 40,000 soldiers. He wasn't trying to defend Rome. He was chasing glory. To him, the east looked like an opportunity. Wealth, new territory, victory. But the Parthians weren't like the enemies Rome had faced before. They didn't fight in tight, heavy infantry lines. They didn't just stand their ground. They moved fast, disciplined, unpredictable. At Carrhae, Crassus found himself up against an army built mostly around cavalry. Horse archers rode in circles around the Roman legions, never charging straight in. They didn't need to. They just kept shooting. Arrows came down in waves, non-stop, relentless, pinpoint accurate. The Romans locked their shields together into a defensive wall meant to block incoming arrows. At first it worked. Their discipline held them together. Shields locked, formation solid. They had survived worse situation before. Or so they thought. But this wasn't a battle they could control. There was no enemy line to break, no moment to charge forward, just distance and pressure. Minute by minute, things got worse. Water ran low. The sun beat down harder. The arrows never stopped falling. Some soldiers started to panic. Others broke formation, just for a second. That was all it took, because the Parthians were waiting for exactly that. Not for victory right away, but for any sign of weakness. And when that moment came, the cataphracts charged. Heavy cavalry, covered in armor from head to toe, driving long lances straight through Roman lines. It wasn't really a battle anymore. It was a collapse. By the end, thousands of Roman soldiers lay dead. Thousands more were taken prisoner. Crassus himself was killed. And Rome learned something it had never faced before. There were enemies out there that it just didn't understand. Rome's strength had always been its structure. Roads connected its armies. Ports fed its supply lines. Communication moved quickly across the Mediterranean. But Persia wasn't like the Mediterranean world. It was about distance. Deserts that stretched farther than you could see. Mountains that blocked your path. Rivers that flooded without warning. There were no easy routes. No reliable infrastructure. Every time Rome advanced into the east, it created a problem. Because every mile forward made supplies harder to get, reinforcements slower to arrive, control weaker to maintain. An army in Gaul could be resupplied in just days. An army in Mesopotamia? Weeks, sometimes months. And Persia understood that perfectly. They didn't need to stop Rome right at the border. They just needed to pull it deeper in, further away from everything that made Rome strong. Because the further Rome moved east, the less it felt like Rome anymore, and the more vulnerable it became. Rome didn't stop trying. It adapted. It sent better generals, larger armies, stronger campaigns, and sometimes it worked. In 116 AD, Emperor Trajan launched one of the most successful invasions of the Parthian Empire. He pushed deep into enemy land, captured major cities, and eventually took Ctesiphon, the Parthian capital. For a moment, it looked like victory, the kind Rome was used to: decisive, complete, final. But something didn't feel right, because while Trajan stood in the capital, the rest of the region was slipping away. Revolts broke out behind him. Supply lines were stretched thin. Local resistance didn't disappear, it grew. The deeper Rome went, the less control it had. Holding Parthia required something Rome didn't have out there: time, stability, and local support. And without those, victory meant nothing. Trajan got sick, and soon after, his successor Hadrian was forced to pull back. Not because Rome lost a single big battle, but because it couldn't hold on to the win. Because in the East, winning wasn't the hard part. Staying was. Carrhae should have been a warning. But it wasn't, because Rome didn't think in terms of limits. It thought in terms of correction. A defeat wasn't a failure. It was just something to fix. So they came back, again and again. New generals, new strategies, new armies marching east. Some campaigns succeeded, a lot didn't. But none of them changed the final outcome, because Rome kept trying to win the same old way, and Persia kept refusing to lose that way. It became a cycle: invasion, resistance, withdrawal, over and over. Not because Rome wasn't capable, but because the problem itself never changed. And in 224 AD, the Parthians gave way to a new, even stronger dynasty, the Sasanian Empire. But for Rome, the problem only got worse. If this story fascinates you, make sure to subscribe and check the playlist. There are more epic battles and hidden histories waiting to be discovered. Persia didn't try to defeat Rome the way Rome expected. It didn't rely on one big decisive battle. It didn't fight for dramatic, headline-grabbing victories. It fought for endurance. Persian forces used speed, terrain, and perfect timing. They avoided fights they didn't need. They attacked supply lines. They used ambushes. They pulled back when necessary, then came right back when Rome was weakest. But their greatest strength wasn't just tactical, it was cultural, because Persia wasn't only defending land, it was defending its very identity. Under the Sasanian Empire, Zoroastrianism became a force that united them. It wasn't just a religion, it was political too. A belief system tied directly to the legitimacy of the state. Resisting Rome wasn't just smart strategy, it was a matter of identity. Rome had succeeded elsewhere by bringing conquered people into its system, sharing its language, its laws, its culture. But Persia didn't want to be integrated. It rejected that completely. And that made it fundamentally different from other regions Rome had taken over before. Because Rome could dominate territory, but it struggled to dominate something deeper, a civilization that simply refused to become part of it. As the conflict went on, something began to shift, not just in Persia, but inside Rome itself. The empire entered a period of instability, political crises, civil wars, leaders changing faster than ever. Emperors rose and fell in rapid succession, and consistency disappeared, and long-term campaigns became harder and harder to keep going. Then came one of the most shocking moments in all of Roman history. In 260 AD, Emperor Valerian led a campaign against the Sasanian Persians. He expected to restore control. Instead, he was defeated and captured alive. No Roman emperor had ever been captured alive before. Taken prisoner by the Persian king Shapur I. This wasn't just a military loss, it was something deeper. For generations, Rome had projected an image: unbreakable, unstoppable, eternal. And now, that image had a crack in it, because an emperor wasn't supposed to fall like this. Not captured, not powerless, not so human. Whether the stories were exaggerated or not, didn't really matter, because perception spreads faster than the truth. And across the empire, one idea began to take hold: Rome could be beaten. For centuries, the conflict continued. Rome advanced, Persia resisted, Persia advanced, Rome pushed back. Territories changed hands. Cities were captured, lost, and captured again. But nothing ever stayed permanent, because neither empire could land a final knockout blow. Rome couldn't fully conquer Persia, and Persia couldn't destroy Rome. They were too evenly matched, too used to each other's moves, too resilient. This wasn't a war heading toward victory. It was a balance, a constant shifting of power, but never a total collapse. In the final Roman-Persian War of 602 to 628 AD, both empires nearly destroyed each other, leaving them vulnerable for a new power that would soon rise from the south. Rome didn't fail because it was weak. It failed because it faced something it wasn't built to overcome. Because the problem was never just Persia itself. It was what Persia stood for: a boundary, not a physical one, but a structural one. The point where expansion stopped working, where power stopped scaling, where the system that built the empire could no longer keep it going. Rome had been designed to grow, to absorb, to reshape the world around it. But Persia couldn't be reshaped, and that forced Rome into something unfamiliar, a permanent rival, not a stepping stone, not a future province, an equal. And so, for 6 centuries, the war continued, not as a story of conquest, but as a story of limits. Because in the end, Rome learned something no empire expects to learn. Not every opponent can be defeated. Not every war can be won. And sometimes, the greatest power in the world still meets something it cannot conquer. Thanks for watching. Click subscribe and dive into this playlist next. More untold stories of empires, warriors, and history-changing battles are just a click away.